I was gonna put this video together. I'm not very computer savvy, so hopefully everything in this works out. I'm gonna go through this real quick because my software only does 10 minutes, and so hopefully I can make it through this in time. A-team meetings. The idea is that you guys meet together once a week, and in that meeting you discuss some things. One is the reading that you're gonna do, and the kind of the idea behind this is that every day you read a chapter. So you guys all meet together, you decide what you're going to read. A chapter a day is a good spot to start. So you could say we're going to read in Mark. So every day in your own time, your quiet time, you read a chapter in Mark, so that by the next week you've read those 7 chapters. While you're reading, you're going to look for what the Lord is calling you on. What are you feeling condemned about? What are you feeling motivated about? What is the Lord saying to you through the Word? Maybe He's saying that you've been disobedient in an aspect. Maybe He's saying you're not giving Him enough time, you're not showing Him enough obedience, you need to be focused more on this or on that. Whatever it is, you're looking for something that the Lord is saying to you. And every week you're going to come together and you're going to question each other on some various topics to include the reading. So did you finish the reading? And what did the Lord say to you? And the more important question is, what are you going to do about it? So every week you come together and you kind of go down the list here. You just follow this card. It's real simple. Introductions, how are you guys doing? And you open up in prayer, help us to be more like Christ. And then you just go down these questions. You guys can take turns asking the questions, or someone can kind of take charge and lead the group. But have you been loving in your relationships? Those include your wife or your husband, your children, people that you're getting fellowship with, people that you're ministering to. Are you showing love in those relationships? This particular list of questions is more designed for the men. And so you see question number 2, have you been exposed to sexually alluring material? The idea behind asking these questions is to bring it out in the open, not to judge or condemn. It is merely to just admit, really. These are questions that no one else is going to ask you. And so that's kind of the idea here. And you can answer these questions yes or no, or you can elaborate on it. That's kind of up to the group as it goes. You just keep going down the list. Have you sinned financially? Have you had pride, integrity, or you've had troubles with submission to authority? Paul tells us we need to submit to the authorities placed over us. You can really go down as far as you want into that rabbit hole. Wearing your seatbelt. It's against the law not to wear your seatbelt. So have you been doing that? Did you obey what God told you last time? So every week, you're reading the Word, and you're going to pull out something that you feel like the Lord's telling you, and you're going to tell the guys what you're going to do about this thing, and they're going to hold you accountable the following week. Hey, did you obey what you said you were going to do? Did you pray through your list daily? So every week, you guys in the group, you're going to exchange prayer requests, and the common model is everyone would give a prayer request for themselves and for someone that maybe they're reaching out to for Christ. But basically, one for you, one for someone else. And we're all going to write down these prayer requests. And when we go to our daily reading, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to open up in prayer, and we're going to raise those requests to God. Did you memorize a new verse this week? If so, quote it. It's kind of an optional goal. I've seen it be less successful than more. But I left it on there because I think it's a good thing to memorize Scripture. Did you finish the reading? You were supposed to read 7 chapters this week. Did you do it? And what did God say to you this week from the Word, and what are you going to do about it? So then you go into the next section. That was up. That had to do with your relationship to Christ. This is kind of focused on a 3-part system, up, in, and out. Up being your relationship with Christ, in being your fellowship, your relationship with the church, and out being your relationship with non-believers or ministry. So as far as the fellowship aspect goes, under in, did you meet your fellowship goals? The idea is to meet 1 to 3 times a week with fellow Christians and get fellowship. And this meeting certainly constitutes one of those. And do you see anything else hindering your walk with Christ? Something that the group in fellowship can help you with. Out is your ministry. Did you meet your goals for sharing the gospel this week? 1 to 3 times. And I might have to post a separate video on some techniques for doing that. But yeah, you gotta, the idea here is to get off your butt and go share the gospel. The Great Commission was not written merely as a good idea. It was a command. Number 2, who will you invite to the group next week? If the group is 4 or more, multiply it, and I'm hoping I have enough time to illustrate that. So here you have a prayer list for your end. You can just jot down some prayers that the people are requesting. Up is some particular scriptures related to these prayers, and you can jot down some other ideas in regards to what you're going to do about these questions over here. And then out, maybe a list of names that you want to reach out to in ministry. So the major idea behind this is that, let's say there are 2 people here. Maybe this one is Tim and this one is Nate. And they decide, hey, we need to get together and hold each other accountable. So they meet up once a week. Let's say maybe they decide to meet up on Saturday. They meet up once a week and they go through this and they hold each other accountable to reading the Word, praying for each other, listening to what God tells them they need to be obedient on, and striving to conquer the temptation of sin in their life, called sanctification, right? So after a few weeks and they got the gist of this, they decide they're going to focus down here on who they're going to invite. And Tim has a friend, maybe his name is Matthew. And Nathan has a friend, maybe, his name is John. So they invite these 2 guys, and now they got a 4-group meeting here. And they do this meeting for a couple weeks. But this guy, Matthew, that's Tim's guy. So maybe they decide they're just going to meet together on Sundays. And John, that's Nate's guy, so he's going to meet with his guy on Sundays. But the point is that Tim and Nate don't stop meeting together on Saturday. But what can happen is if Tim is following this guideline for accountability with Matthew, and Nate is following this guideline for accountability with John, Tim and Nate's meetings on Saturdays don't really have to focus on this because they're getting accountability. They instead can encourage each other and sharpen each other like steel sharpens steel. Tim can say, hey, Matthew's really struggling with this. I don't know what to tell him. Maybe Nate knows. Or vice versa. John, he's going through this problem. Maybe Tim has some experience with that and he can give some guidance to Nate. So this is kind of like a more executive meeting talking about the groups that they have. And eventually, hopefully, Nate and John, with their Sunday meetings, they can reach out to 2 people, maybe Mark and Luke. And eventually, Nate will then have this meeting with John will be an executive meeting, and Nate's meeting with Luke will be more accountability based. And so it can keep multiplying like this. The goal is that you're meeting 1 to 3 times a week, and in theory, I can only be doing accountability with 1 guy or maybe 4 guys in a group. And then I can have another meeting once a week where I'm talking about that group. And as it grows and it grows and it grows, eventually what I've seen happen is the kind of the originators of this group will get together and say, hey, John, invite everyone that you're working with. Matthew, invite everybody that you're working with. We're going to do a barbecue at Tim's house this weekend. And you can get the whole group together and talk about what's going on. You can illustrate how it's grown. And I know it might seem like this is really great on pen and paper, but how does it work? I'm telling you, it's working. It's working amazingly. It really is just multiplying the church. And hopefully this video kind of gives some clarification on how this is supposed to go.